treat your body right. Love your body, treat your body right. Jamaica get moving.
Yes. Welcome again to Rebel Radio. And at this time we're going to be talking to our Guyanese journalist, Mr. Rickford Burke. Mr. Burke, how are you?
Good afternoon to you, sir. I'm not a journalist, but I'm a political activist.
Yes, sir. Yes. And I was talking to the opposition leader, the Guyanese opposition leader, earlier on today. And,
okay.
you know, we at Rebel Radio have been following up what is happening in Guyana. Because, you know, at a time when Guyana struck gold, I mean, when the resources are there to make the lives of the people better, it would appear as if the political climate is getting sour. Is that a true description of what is happening in Guyana now?
Well, that's putting it very mildly. I think what we have is an apartheid government, apartheid East Indian-led government, the People's Progressive Party government that is conducting a war on the African Guyanese community. And I think it's important for the rest of the Caribbean, especially people of African descent in the Caribbean, in countries like Jamaica, to follow closely what is happening in Guyana and to support the African Guyanese. Ideally, I like to say support Guyanese, but particularly support the African Guyanese population in Guyana, which is under siege. We have a government that acts as though Guyana is their plantation, and Black people are slaves on that plantation. And I know the things that happen in Guyana cannot happen in Jamaica. I have lots of friends from Jamaica, I have relatives from Jamaica. And when we talk about the atrocities, I have even friends in government in Jamaica. When we talk about the atrocities against African Guyanese citizens in Guyana, they're appalled. And so I'm happy that you're shining a spotlight on what is happening in Guyana, because the rest of the Caribbean need to understand the situation in Guyana. I think CARICOM and Caribbean governments as a whole have turned a blind eye to the atrocities in Guyana. And I think they would only want to focus on Guyana if and when there is some sort of civil conflict that breaks out there, which is very imminent, because I'm not sure how long the African Guyanese community would allow themselves to be oppressed by a set of racist, apartheid racists who believe that Guyana's natural resources and the national patrimony belong to the East Indian population alone.
Yes, sir.
And they govern as an ethnocracy where they use all of the resources of the country for East Indians. They're East Indians, East Indian supporters of the government, not even the East Indians who don't support the government, not even the Amerindian community, the indigenous community. They operate as an ethnocracy and use all of the resources, all of the wealth of the country for the East Indian population that supports them.
Yes, sir. And I understand that this is widespread. The opposition leader told me about the bulldozing of Afro-Guyanese. So those Afro-Guyanese with land who are living on land, they are being thrown off.
Yes, we had on the 6th of January, the government bulldozed the homes of several African Guyanese families in a village called Mucka. Mucka is a village that was bought by slaves. So these are ancestral lands. And the government is building a road through that village. It's a very big, large community. And they claim that these homes were in the path of the road. But when we look at the drawings, the roads are not in the path of the road. The engineers have said to the residents that they're not in the path of the roads, but the government want them to move. We suspect is because when that road is established fully, those lands will become prime real estate, which they will then sell or lease to rich East Indian businessmen. That's the rumor. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm in New York, but so the government, it was not only that they bulldozed the homes, but they deliberately destroyed the belongings, the appliances, the property, the structures, the furnishings, cattle, livestock, even beverages.
Yes.
That one woman was selling through her business establishment. They destroyed them. It was a deliberate destruction, and it was a crime against humanity. They beat some of the residents who didn't commit any crimes. They were just there trying to protect their homes.
Yes.
Dragged one woman through the mud, kneel on her back. It was a scene like George Floyd. And you had police officers breaking bridges, breaking homes. I think it deserves an international inquiry. Police officers are there to serve and protect, not to serve as a demolition crew. And like I said, these are crimes against humanity. But particularly, you would not find this kind of atrocity happening to East Indians. The government is very contemptuous of black people. Very contemptuous of black people. This bunch of racists, they're like the KKK in America. They are even contemptuous of the black people in the rest of the Caribbean.
You mean that?
The African Jamaicans are not their friends. They would treat the Jamaicans and the Antiguans and the Haitians the same way. As a matter of fact, they've banned Haitians from coming to Guyana. They claim that they're engaging in human trafficking. But they want Afghans to come to Guyana. They're bringing Cubans to come to Guyana. They're bringing Venezuelans and Bangladeshis and Indians. I just noticed that the president went to India and signed some agreement for Indian workers to come to Guyana. We know what that is. They're going to flood Guyana with Indians so as to increase their electoral prospects, grant them citizenship and so on. So we know what they're up to. And at this point in time, I want to appeal to the people of Jamaica. I have a special relationship with Jamaica. My son is Jamaican. Yeah. And I want to appeal to the people of Jamaica, to the government, to Prime Minister Holness, to pay attention to what is happening in Guyana, and for at the level of the CARICOM heads of government to hold the president of Guyana accountable. The president of Guyana sees Afro-Guyanese, sees people of African descent as second-class citizens. And we're forming an opinion where we think they want to reintroduce slavery into Guyana. And at some point in time, we have to have a discussion as a nation whether or not this government needs to take their supporters on an island or a different part of the country and go and live with them, because it is clear that the government does not want to live. The government and the supporters, the leaders of the PPP, these racists, they don't want to live with Afro-Guyanese. They don't believe we're legitimate citizens of Guyana. And they treat us like slaves. What happened in Mocha, I wish you had the videos to show it to your audience. What happened in Mocha is the most accurate portrayal of what our ancestors, what black slaves went through in Guyana and the Caribbean. What we saw happen there has tortured me and will torture me for the rest of my life. It was a reenactment of slavery. The only thing missing was white masses riding horses, whipping black people.
Yes, sir.
But they procured the services of the police force to perform that task of whipping black people, beating them and chasing them off of their lands, and leaving over 50 families displaced, 35 families displaced, including 50 children who are homeless, cannot go to school. People have to find places for them to live, eat, and sleep.
Well, this is intolerable. This is intolerable. I also understand that the institutions, state institutions, are being politicized, and this includes the judiciary.
Absolutely. there is some level of independence in the judiciary. I'm not convinced that the judiciary is altogether independent. I think the judiciary has been facilitating the political agenda of the government. The police force is completely the force of the ruling party. Yes. The police force does not enforce the law against supporters of the government. Mm-hmm. The police force is political. They carry out political instruction. The police force has issued 2 wanted bulletins to me, even though they have no jurisdiction for me. I live in America.
Yes.
But because I'm speaking out, they claim that I'm breaching cybercrime laws in Guyana and issuing wanted bulletin for me, to the point where the Attorney General of New York had to warn them. Mm-hmm. They have, the government has people following me. All of the intelligence agencies are monitoring me. Yes. I feel very special. In the meantime, Guyana is now on the list of the top 10 countries, top 10 most dangerous countries in the world.
Yes.
If you look at the World Population Review report on countries with the highest crime, Guyana is number 8.
Yeah, I saw that this evening.
Yes, we have limited police resources, and much of that resource is used to monitor political enemies, monitor what people like myself and others say,
yes. And
the criminals are running free on the street. Almost every day there's an execution-style killing.
Yes.
But the police are monitoring political opponents of the government. Right now, that's the top priority of the police. Mm-hmm. It's like the Russian KGB.
Well. This is something that and the other thing I understand, that the civil society, the civil groups in the country are dormant.
Well, so the civil society is, everything in Guyana is politicized straight along political party lines.
Yes,
everything
sir.
In the society, even maybe the churches.
Okay.
And those that are not politicized are scared to talk because you're either killed or the government is going to arrest you. Every black talk show host has been arrested.
Okay.
Anybody that speaks out against the government, if you're from the other side, you get arrested.
Okay.
And so Guyana is not a democracy. Civil society organizations are politicized themselves. Or if they're not politicized, they're scared to speak.
Okay.
The society is very compromised. The government is very corrupt. If a pastor or somebody decides to speak out, the government will call them and do 2 things: either intimidate them or pay them off.
Yes.
The government uses black people, to attack people like us. They pay them.
Okay.
You have the vice president of the country going on a talk show hosted by somebody who was involved in a death squad.
Yes.
This is the vice president of the country.
Wow.
And attacking people.
Wow.
So rule of law is under threat in Guyana. Democracy has been compromised. I think the international community is turning a blind eye because some of the countries prefer this East Indian-led government in power. Some of the ambassadors on the ground, the foreign ambassadors on the ground, to me, come out of this same imperialist mindset. So they don't care if black people are mistreated,
okay,
or human rights are abused, or human dignity is infringed on. So, it's a sad situation, and what it calls for is international support. Just like the Caribbean, the governments of the Caribbean in the 70s and the 80s, and before I was born, supported apartheid regimes in Africa. Supported the struggle of the people of Africa against apartheid regimes. We need that kind of support now from the Caribbean, the rest of the Caribbean. Okay. We cannot talk about Cuba. We cannot talk about what is happening in what happened in apartheid South Africa, or what is happening in China or Russia or Myanmar or Iran. Yeah. And right in our backyard, we are scared to talk. Okay. About what the PPP government is doing to black people in Guyana because we want to be friends with Barra Jagde when the president. We don't want to disrupt CARICOM. CARICOM has failed the people of the region.
Yes,
CARICOM has failed Guyanese. Yeah. the CARICOM headquarters in Guyana, and under Jack Davis' presidency from 1998 to 2011, that government carried out a genocide against black people. Over 1,400 black young men were killed, and CARICOM was right there and said nothing. Yeah. CARICOM diplomats were kidnapped.
Well, Mr. Burke, I want to tell you that we at Rebel Radio are going to, well, we are doing what we can, and to keep the doors open, to keep the eyes on Guyana. And we have exhausted our time this afternoon, but I want to tell you that I'm going to invite you back here because we want to continue this discussion to focus on what is happening in Guyana. I want to thank you very much for your contribution this evening.
And thank you for having me. And I want to encourage the people of Jamaica to call their government and ask the government to intervene in the crisis against African Guyanese and atrocities in Guyana.